Welcome, Nicolle.
Thank you.
So we have a rare opportunity here. Over the last 3 days, we've had the three heavy hitters of legacy media, especially from formerly the magazine space. Had Hearst, Meredith Dotdash, and now what I grew up on as Rodale, trusted media brands. So what I'm really curious about is you've seen Mike and Joetta's presentations. What's the key differentiator here for you? When you come to market with your use of first-party data, how do you distinguish yourself from the rest?
I think it goes back to what it's always been with the different companies having different perspectives, because we have different brands, we have different point of views, we have different creativity and different lenses that we're supporting our communities of people. We can't own the word community. There's obviously a lot of communities out there, but every brand has a different way of being vibrant and vital to the people that they're supporting. So with the contextual stuff that Joetta was talking about, that's a really unique way of using the data. I think with what Mike's doing and the auras, that's really unique as well. And I think what we're doing around communities and more of the content lens and using some of our licensing assets, it's a very different way of approaching a very complicated market, but at the end of the day, it's all people.
Explain. So you guys created the community studio, and you evolved towards it.
Yeah.
Tell us about that process, the process you went through over the last few years, deciding what you needed to do and the changes you needed to make, and why the community studio sort of emerged from it as the result.
Yeah, so I joined a year ago, and when I joined, we had an amazing data product called TI360. It was great. It was a solid foundation in data. We had a great video product because we have streaming assets from when we acquired Jukin. It was a video product called TV360. We had great custom content capabilities. We had trusted studios that were doing an amazing content production. But it was really complicated to talk to clients. It was really difficult to expand on quickly. And when I was looking around and seeing where our successes were, it was very custom opportunities. And it was really tied into this thought that it's customized situations that we're going to win at. We're not going to have the biggest scale. Google and Facebook are always going to be winning in that. But how do we bring this community feel together and make it simpler? So looking at where our brands are, too, it makes sense. Reader's Digest has always been supporting those communities. Taste of Home's always been in the rural communities or like the Midwest communities, the local communities, the suburbs. Our brands aren't super... we're not going to be creating culture in that way. We're living culture. We're the kings and queens of the cul-de-sac in that way.
What were the silos you were breaking down, and how did you break them down? And I know that when we had talked about this earlier, you had said that one of the missing things was there was no red thread that went through all of these. What's the red thread here that helps you talk to clients in a more unified way?
Yeah, as you guys probably experienced, there are different buyers. There's buyers for digital, there's buyers for video, there's buyers for print, there's buyers for every piece that you can imagine, the creators and different custom content teams. So we had to find the red thread that made it so it worked for everybody, and I think that that's what Community Studio does. It allows you to activate our data in different ways, depending on the platforms that you have the budget to activate, and it makes it simple.
And how does now one of your properties is Jukin licensing. Tell us what that business is and how that folds into all of this and helps become a differentiator for you.
Yeah, so Jukin Licensing isn't necessarily a property, but it's our business unit that they power a lot of our properties. So Jukin Licensing is a separate business entity that brands work with. Some of our assets are used in Super Bowl commercials. Some are used in Brad Paisley's concert tour. Brands use them for their advertising. And we use them to power our brands. So Fail Army and Pet Collective use Jukin Licensing assets to create their content. We use them in various ways to create our branded content as well. And that's what some of our great examples are today.
And some of it is UGC.
Jukin Licensing it's technically UGC, right? Like, so I think the creator economy is interesting because isn't it all UGC? Isn't YouTube all UGC? If we really get down to it, what is UGC at the end of the day?
Well, I want to look at, I teased out a couple of examples that I wanted you to talk to that I think that may help us better understand how this all works. Sound?
Yeah.
Is that my GTO? I built that thing 15 years ago. Somebody stole it.
Hi, Dad.
There is the thief.
Hey, kids, say hi to Grandpa.
Hey, Pops.
Oh, no! Are you kidding? What a surprise. Holy shoot.
Have a good day at school. Bye, Kate. Have a great day at school, Kate. Hi, Principal Dennis. I'm gonna miss her all day.
I'm crawling home because I'm broke and need a place to stay until I figure out what the rest of my life looks like.
You guys can stay here.
Really? Because I haven't changed a lot.
Neither have I.
How's that an illustration of what you do?
So that's a great example, and that's a social first example. So you saw that the closed captioning was there. That's how Hulu prefers to approach it on social versus on streaming. There's different use cases. In the beginning of it, those are clips that are from the Jukin licensing library that we can access. We might choose to use those clips in our programming, but they chose them. We provide those as options. And what's great for clients is that we don't have to go through full production. We can select them to use. It's like having an amazing archive, only we pull from this UGC library. We can also go source them. So we'll go source them in the open creative community if we need to for brands. If there's a certain type of content that we're looking for, if we need to have cat owners with 2 kids, for example, and we want to make sure that that's happening, we'll go find it.
I want to pivot into the creator economy because that's a very important part of what you're doing going forward. And I also want to point out that Reader's Digest, one of your oldest properties, was one of the pioneers of UGC. They were one of the first magazines to invite submissions. There were a whole category of submissions that came from the readers. This goes back to the 20s and 30s, I think. But why is the creator economy not a direct threat to what you do? Why is it not a direct threat to legacy media?
I think that the creator economy is celebrating the same type of person that UGC had. And it's really the time spent that it's the threat. And what I mean by that is UGC marketers were afraid of. Creators puts a different name on it, but it's the same type of person doing the thing. The same type of person that's being a creator was the one who was filming themselves doing something. They were the person that was submitting stories or submitting recipes to us or to other people. It's the same person doing that, but they have different formats and different opportunities to share and different opportunities to now make money off of it. But we've now been able to rename it in a way that's a little more client-friendly, and creators is that. But I think that the threat is the time spent and how we as publishers and as content creators on our own rights approach that, because when you dilute the time across different opportunities, that's where the threat comes from.
And take us a little bit more inside how you actually are working with these folks. How do you go across or about the process of identifying who they are, how you map them, and how you actually are using them or working with them and partnering with them?
Yeah, we work with them in a variety of ways. Obviously, with our licensing business, we take their content and pay them. It's very simple for them. They don't have to do anything. We like to make it easy for them if they don't want to be involved as an actual creator and do the work that is required to be a creator and doing your own editing. They can do that. It's very simple. Or if they want to have a little more involvement, we now have opportunities for them to work with us and have us help them develop, kind of hold their hand and be a little more involved. We launched Taste of Home Creators and have a set of 4 creators right now that are working with our editorial team and our social team and learning some best practices. They learn from different parts of our business to just understand how much effort it does take to be a true creator. We purposely chose people that have a low follower count, like 20 or 30,000, because we thought that that was important to make it valuable enough, but we wanted them to be a part of our conversation in these communities.
But actually, go and tell about why a low follower count?
I think that
what distinguishes them from the bigger, more established ones?
They are the more authentic. They're very personable. They're really excited. They have the joy of that person-to-person conversation, and that's authentic to our brands. We want to have that. We don't want to have it be somebody who's a large celebrity like creator. That's not our brand.
You're being very polite, but I think you say that you're getting them before they're jaded and arrogant.
Well, that's true too. Yeah, we want them to be nice. We want them to be having fun with us, and I think that comes through in how we work with them too. That like if you follow some of our Taste of Home handles, you'll see they look like they're having fun. That's important.
Let's look at an example that I picked out, which was that you did for Hellman's.
That is insane right there. You think we can try some potato salad?
Absolutely. We got yellow Yukon Gold potatoes, crispy shallots on top. Hellman's mayonnaise, delicious. We'll throw a little dill in there. And then we got some deviled eggs in there too.
And that makes it really rich and creamy, right?
Rich and creamy, and then that dill gives that relish flavor without, pickle flavor without kind of having a bunch of relish and liquid in there. So I think that dill really sets that egg salad apart.
I really think so too. The shallots on there?
Shallots are nice.
I like the crunchy exterior.
Everybody can do excellent barbecue. I had no cooking experience, no restaurant experience. I just started smoking meat. If you like it, you're gonna keep getting better. And so yeah, I think everybody can do excellent barbecue.
Let's go in for that first bite. Look at that. Whoa.
How's that?
Clean bite. Look at that.
Everything gets on our menu in a restaurant. It's like, we love it. We eat it every day. And they're like, do you ever get tired of barbecue? They're like, no. I get tired of maybe one specific cut for a season, but then I love it, so I go back to it,
How is this essentially different than just slapping a celebrity into the same spot, which we typically would have done?
Yeah, I think they're different because that's Tyler. He's a dad. He is a creator, but he's also in the military, has a full-time job. He does this for fun, and that comes through. He learned it on his own, but he's so excited to experience it and enjoy it. He was walking around at the Lone Star Smokeout, talking to all the pit masters, just being a part of that community with them, and having different conversations than what a celebrity would who doesn't know anything about barbecuing. You have to know about some of these things to really get into these environments and be a part of that story. And I think that we could have chosen a different creator to have a different story. And that's where having our editors and our content teams, having Taste of Home as the brand voice and what is the story that we want to tell at this event with Hellman's or with other brands, how do we pull that out? And it was the barbecue, the pit masters, and that type of thinking.
So I'm curious about the thing that I think legacy media is trying to tap into in creators, which is authenticity, which I think many believe legacy media has lost. But authenticity is a fleeting thing. And I'm very curious about how a legacy brand and a major media company deals with the constantly changing and churning nature of what is authentic online. If you are managing and working with a series of creators, how do you keep up with the ups and downs of their popularity, people who are in or out, the small ones that become big ones and suddenly become obvious shills for everybody? And I'm foreshadowing, I'm going to show you a video between sessions in a bit that actually parodies the influencers and what they've become. So I'm curious from a legacy media perspective as you're working with them, how do you craft authenticity and how do you create internally a system that's going to keep up with that ever-changing, that ever-moving goalpost of authenticity?
I don't think we'll ever go all in on creator-only content. I think that for us, we also have a different starting point, that we've always had this content that's from the community. Our recipes, our projects and family handyman have always had, what are you doing in your home? How do you share it with us so that then we can share it with others? We're going to continue doing that on every brand. And so I think as creators become a bigger part of how we tell those stories on different platforms, we'll continue judging what type of creators are important. Do they still fit the vibe that we want to be having on each platform? Are they doing the right things on that platform to remain engaged and authentic? Do they have the right type of follower accounts and the right type of vitality to make sure that they are a good representative of what we view as authentic? And it goes back to the same type of engagement that I think that publishers have always sought. Do you have the right type of subscriber count? Do you have the right type of readership? Is it really the metrics and the KPIs that you're managing on behalf of your business? And then how are you executing against it? So I don't know that we'll ever have a huge stable of creators, but we'll use Jukin licensing to kind of continue managing that part.
Interesting. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to
Yeah.
pop the hood a little bit on the management of this and the internal organization. So you said you're keeping it, you're actually limiting it. You're not trying to go for everybody. You're not trying to create a network of creators, which is kind of the internet thing to do.
Yeah.
But instead, you're keeping it very small and manageable. How do you actually organize this internally? Is there a team that works specifically with them, that identifies them, that is doing that quality control along the way?
Yes, there is. So we'll be launching Family Handyman's creators in a similar manner. We'll have about 4 of them. And it is a team managing them, working with every platform. So managing the creators and then working with each platform of how should we have this content be represented. But it's similar to how you manage any editorial process or tentpole. How do you want this to look? What does it need to look like? And
Is it brand by brand though? Is it siloed by brand doing this, or have you centralized this in any way?
it's mostly centralized. That's how
Okay.
we're approaching that.
So you've got a centralized team that's actually working with all the individual brands. But it does sound there is an echo of the traditional work with freelance columnists. Is that the way editors always had to work with columnists? Is that same kind of relationship? What's in it for them?
Oh my gosh, that's been the most interesting thing. They love being part of the community. So that was an unintended consequence of TMB's Community Studio. We knew we were creating it for our consumers and for our marketers, but the creators themselves want to be a part of a community. They've expressed that they were lonely and working in their homes and cutting their own videos, and they were engaging with their audiences, but they've loved learning from our editors, learning from each other, being a part of the brainstorms, coming together in person with us, and just having that camaraderie, non-competitive, but camaraderie.
So interestingly enough, the vibe of the old media, the allure of the old media, and the big known brands is still there, and you can leverage that in your relationship. Is this all bespoke? Is there a way in which this scales? Or is it really important that it stay sort of intimate, small, managed? Or is there a way to take some of this and scale it in the way that the internet has always wanted to scale everything?
I think there's different approaches, and some people may want to scale it. I don't know that that's our approach. There's a lot of scale out there on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and there's different monetization strategies for that. So I think that there's scale that can apply with the distribution strategies that we choose to leverage as content creators and distributors. But I don't know that it has to come from the number of creators. I think to your earlier point, it's like the editorial strategy, and how does that apply in this world of creators? And what functions do you as a company have in place that you can leverage uniquely? And we have Jukin licensing, that is an entire business unit that knows how to do this. What do you have that is a unique option for you and your business that could apply? We heard a lot from the newspaper business of how these local events are interesting, and I think that's just fascinating. That makes so much sense. There's a lot of the parallels, I think, from old to new.
Are most of your connections with the creators actually coming through Jukin licensing? Because this seems like an interesting extension and a way to connect with that community. Are most of your connections coming from the Jukin relationship?
The creators?
With the creators?
No, surprisingly. It's just because we have such strong social presence, and so we're constantly aware. There's also social listening tools, so we can understand which creators might be interesting to us, and we have people constantly submitting and just talking to our brands too, so it's been a variety.
Tease this out 5 years. Is this what are we moving towards, our major media moving towards a hybrid model? As we're seeing, as we just went through an election, which we were told was a podcast election, was a creator election. Not sure about that, but it makes good headlines. But in 5 years, are we going to see the shift of authority and power move towards be even more diffused towards these creators? Or is the idea that we're moving forward, there's going to be some kind of hybrid model, partnerships that they still need you to do certain things, to move them towards a certain professionalism and polish, and relationship with brands?
I think the latter. I really feel like word of mouth has always been there. I think the creators are public word of mouth, that there's now options to kind of play with that, and there's ways that marketers send product, and that's free. And so I think that there's going to continue to be a need for companies like all of ours to add that polish, add that brand safety. You know, our UGC is brand safe because it goes through a full process. There's all sorts of legal reviews and things, and that's not just UGC that you're running in on some unknown library. So there's different pieces of the puzzle that I think are going to continue to get stricter as everybody gets just that much smarter. It's just like with programmatic in the early days of that it was, nobody really understood parts of it, and then as everybody understood more and more and more, now it's so complicated that the trade desk is trying to simplify it again, and thank God, because that needs to happen. But I think there will always be a need for simplification, safety, communication. So I don't know that it'll go fully away into authority. I think that we are at a point, but it's like word of mouth and authority have always been hand in hand. What does that look like is where we're moving towards.
Does anybody have questions for Nicolle?
For that Hellman's example, I was just curious if you could speak a little bit to your revenue cost model, your packaging and pricing, how you approach that. Is it based on the talent and you go from there? And because we were talking yesterday in our roundtable about how the cost of some of this creation might be a little out of whack. I'm just curious how it works with the brands and how you approach it.
Yeah, so that one is one of our tent poles that we have different tent poles throughout the year, and they're for brand health as well as for sponsorship opportunities, so that's a little bit different. We package that into is a multi-platform deal, and so that works well to offset some of the costs. What we were talking about yesterday, and I'm happy to share this on the stage, even though that was part of the roundtable, is that our Jukin licensing allows for a lot of our costs to be less expensive because it's not fully produced content. We can package that and make that more effective, and that works really well for a lot of marketers. That's why Jukin licensing as a business works really well for a lot of marketers too. The brand safety, the powerful performance, and we do a full production so we can leverage either end of the spectrum depending on the marketer goals and needs.
Any other questions?
Nicolle, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.